Hi, everybody. My name is Khawaja Shams. I'm here today with Prasad. Prasad, welcome to the show. Love to learn a little bit about you.
Thank you, Khawaja. Thank you for having me over.
Yeah. So you're a founder at Langroid, and I've been really excited about, agent-centric LLM development. And I would love to just hear a little bit of a perspective from you on what is Langroid and why you built it.
So the way I like to think about Langroid is it is an answer to a certain question. Okay. So you see all of these super amazing abilities of language models on the one hand, not just pure text generation, but they're also great at reasoning, planning, in-context learning, and many other capabilities. So every company is asking this question: how do we leverage LLMs in enterprise production settings? Right. So the problem is that language models have limitations. They have amazing abilities, but there are limitations like they hallucinate, they are brittle, there are limitations in context length, and there's also token cost. So because of all of these practical technical limitations, solving problems with LLMs is not as simple as, hey, here is the task, and then just give me the solution in one shot. It doesn't work that way. So you need a very principled programming framework, and this is what Langroid aims to be.
Okay. So what makes it a more principled framework?
So from the ground up, we thought about how do we build complex applications. So if you go back to the history of, let's say, even programming in general, of course, you can write a huge function to solve any problem, right? You can write one function, but that doesn't work. You have subroutines, right? So you have a desire for modularity. So by analogy with Langroid, we have this notion of agents. So agents are the central modules. And so we built Langroid from the ground up with agents as first-class citizens. And so multiple agents then communicate through message passing. And then there is an orchestrator that makes it very easy to plug together multiple agents to solve problems.
Okay. And for people who are new to this, can you get into what an agent is? So I get that there's a notion of agents, there's an orchestrator that's coordinating the work amongst the agents, and agents may be talking to each other. But defining an agent and maybe sharing some examples of what an agent could be, I think would be really useful.
Yeah, sure. So the way we think about agents is they encapsulate certain state. So, as I said, you have large language models, but then very often when you build an application using language models, you find that you also need a memory, long-term memory, let's say, through vector databases, for example. So an agent here in our case is just an encapsulation of various capabilities. So you could have a language model inside an agent. You could also have a vector database optionally, and you can have some specialized methods that handle structured messages from the language model. So an agent is simply, at the end of the day, if you look at the code, it's just a class that has potentially a language model. It'll have a vector database and some other methods. So that's the notion of an agent. So it maintains state. For example, one of the things an agent will maintain is a conversation state with an LLM.
Okay. And so let's talk about a simpler version of a complex problem.
Yeah.
If you can share an example where there's multiple agents, and what are those agents doing, and how are you designing each of those agents in this scenario?
Yeah. So we already put together several examples. Our viewers are welcome to see our repo, but I'll just walk you through a simple scenario. Let's say you are a developer and you have a code base, a GitHub repo, and you want to write a Docker file for this. Normally, this is a very difficult, tedious task. It requires serious DevOps experience to get this done. So imagine you as a human want to do this, right? So what's the first thing? One of the first things you might do is, what language is this repo in? You might want to find out that. Next, let's say it's Python. Then you want to know what version of Python is this repo in. Okay, so you can imagine asking these questions to another person who has access to the code. Okay, let's replace this second person who has access to the code with the LLM. The language model has access to the code repo through a vector database. Okay, and then you as a human are asking it questions. Let's start with that scenario first. So, hey, what language is the repo in? You type the question, right? It'll tell you, hey, it's in Python. And then you ask it, okay, what version of Python? Then this agent will interact with the will figure out from the code base that it's in the database. Okay, so it'll look at various options, various types of files, and say, okay, it's Python 3.9. Okay. So we've replaced this other human that you were talking to find out information about the repo with an agent. Now you replace yourself with an agent. Okay. So I am in charge of writing the Docker file. So instead of human, let's put another agent to take charge of this overall task of writing a Docker file. Okay. This is how you instruct this sort of a Docker agent. And say, hey, you are going to get help from this other agent who has access to the code. You have to formulate questions and get these answers. See what I mean? So the best way to think about how do you build a multi-agent system is first start with imagining humans that are doing this. And then you one by one replace each of these humans in this system with agents.
Got it. So can you then imagine even things like, if I have a team and I'm doing active development, I submit a code review, somebody else does the code review, and then there's an agent that generates a build artifact and a separate agent that then goes and takes that build artifact and deploys it into production. And that build artifact may have contributions, not just from one agent, but multiple agents.
Exactly. I would say that is a great way. We've also signed up a proof of concept project with a supply chain company where typically there are multiple humans handling various aspects of, let's say, routing a truck from one place to another, worrying about road conditions and weather and types of material. So an agent-based system is a great application in this scenario.
Do agents have to be LLM centric? So we're talking about agent centric LLMs, but is every agent an LLM, or can you have an agent that's just making an API call to see what the weather is today?
That's actually a great question. So in fact, in our setting in Langroid, agents, there are all these components that I mentioned earlier are optional. So an LLM is optional component. It may not have an LLM. It may have a vector database. It may just have a method that simply its whole job is to route messages between agents, for example. There's no LLM involved there.
Got it. And what's something that you can do with an agent that you can't do with, let's say, an alternative solution like LangChain? Because all of what you're describing, I can imagine it being, a chain of events in a workflow as well. How does Langroid make life easier than just, expressing this workflow as a LangChain?
Sure. Okay. So I would formulate that question as, so in theory, even with assembly language, you can get everything done. Okay. So let's start there, right? So, with LangChain, you can definitely do whatever Langroid is able to do with whatever you're able to code up with Langroid. The question ultimately is, how natural is the developer experience? How intuitive does it feel? How flexible and modular the whole approach is. So that is where I think with the multi-agent framework of Langroid, we can, those are some of the things that you can do.
Got it. And do you imagine a library of these agents? Do you imagine people contributing agents into an ecosystem where then others can just come in and compose workflows that are using not only the agents they have, but agents from others, or are agents pretty proprietary and purpose-built for a specific workflow?
No, I mean, we expressly designed Langroid to be essentially open for anyone to contribute agents. We already make some agents available. Let's say there's a document chat agent, and there is a tool or an agent to route messages. There are some specialized, or SQL chat agent is one agent we just released. But the idea is to have these agents be contributed by anybody. And they could be not just running in the same session even. So we'll soon be supporting agents that can run, long-running agents that can run anywhere and then communicate with each other.
Got it. So so is an agent not even necessarily like a piece of software that I run on my instance? Can I talk to somebody else's agent, get data back? And is there a framework that allows all this to my agents and somebody else's agents to work together? And can I offer agents as a hosted service to others?
Yes, that is the plan. So we don't have all of that infrastructure yet, but that is very much in the works.
Got it. And can you tell us a little bit about the founders at Langroid? We'd love to learn a little bit about you and your co-founder as well.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, Somesh and I, we founded this about maybe 4 months ago. We met during Carnegie Mellon PhD. So my PhD was in machine learning. And after that, I spent about half and half in finance and tech industries. So in finance, I was at Goldman Sachs and some hedge funds. And then I moved to Yahoo and then MediaMath, where I was heading up data science, machine learning teams. Over the last couple of years, I have been very much involved in startups. And so this was founded about 4 months ago. It was founded out of a sort of frustration with current frameworks, honestly. So we tried to build a simple document chat agent, which if we wanted to build in a certain way that's not in the standard tutorials. And then we found that to be extremely hard. And we said, hey, there has to be a better way. And so about my co-founder, Somesh Jha, he's a professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison, professor of computer science. He has been working in security and machine learning for a number of years. And so that's a quick run through.
And if people want to learn more about Langroid, where can they go? And how do they run their first Langroid-based application?
Yeah, just go to our repo. It's on GitHub. Please give some stars. And so there are a few ways to keep up to date. One is we have a newsletter, which we just launched on Substack. There are plenty of examples and a quick start guide even in the documentation that people can dive in.
Awesome. We'll have the links to the newsletter in the comment and the getting started guides as well. Prasad, thank you so much for being here and for recording the show with us.
Thank you, Khawaja. It's a pleasure.